Hey everyone, it's time for the walkthrough of Wasteland, which is a song from my album The Poison Act 1. It's sang by Megan Simpson, mixed by Michael. I will get over these things in a bit. I'm just going to show you in Cubase where I do all my audio stuff, and also Ableton, because with the songs I did some vocoders, which I like to do in Ableton, but I'll show that at the end. So here we are in Cubase. In the intro, we have this very subtle piano intro with lots of atmospheric strings, and the vocals, of course, which sounds like this.
All this shirt filled my pages with regret, so alive, but left for dead.
It sounds so. I really love how she did the vocals there. So just at this lower range, it sounds so fragile and emotional. And the piano is just two notes at the same time every time. I created these open voicings, which you can do on guitar really easily. I was playing a lot of guitar at the time, so I started treating my piano like a guitar, maybe, which was how I like to think about it. It just creates so much space and openness. Like when you play like this, it's just really nice. And then to make it more moody, I added the atmospheres. Specifically here, I did a lot of strings that move around a lot. And with atmospheres, I'm naming this atmospheres, but it's bad stuff that sounds like spacey and like that adds to the kind of background, basically. So it's all pretty subtle. There's a windy sound that's helping, and there's the rest is all just moving strings that just move around. All of Arnold's not chamber strings for this one, which is like a pitch sound that just moves around, which I used in a lot of the other tracks as well for the Poison, as you can hear. It's very, very soft, but if we turn it up a little bit, it sounds very, very menacing. And I'm just gonna put it back where it was-ish. So yeah, we have this very menacing episodic pitch is what it's called. And then we also have Oliver Arnold cells and the chamber alternations, which is by the Fracture Sounds thingy. And they also really make it move. And all these things going at once adds a lot of drama in the background. And I think it's really cool when you have every element that's going on in a piece. I don't always do this. I try to create it that it sounds interesting on its own, and then together also fits kind of like a puzzle. But yeah, that's it for the intro. I didn't do much apart from that. Like I said, the vocals I wrote, but Michael produced it. Megan sang it like really perfectly. Just
So in love with no letter to be sent, out of words and out of breath.
which is such a solid thing, but having breath at the end as a word, and then having this winds kind of going higher.
And out of breath.
Which you can hear, it's like this sound. Which to me kind of sounds like a breath, like breathing out. And then having this little break.
Voices clouds around me. I just wanna save myself from drowning when there is nobody that can help me get out of my rut. Oh, please remember when we didn't run.
I'm gonna do this with original mix just to tell you something about it. So it's like we have more choirs in here.
Voices clouds around me. I just wanna save myself from drowning when there is nobody that can help me get out of my rut. Oh, please remember when we didn't run. When times would
And this is the part that to me was really hard to get down. I tried a lot of different variations. The lyrics went very smoothly for me with this one. And the thing is, with the chords, I wanted to change things up, and I also wanted to make it fuller, like just create some sort of fullness to add weight to this moment. And because these poisonous clouds are surrounding you, and it's like dark, and yeah, what I did was I added more filled up chords. So instead, these are just written on my keyboard and mouse, but they're like this. So kind of Hans Zimmery, and this is a chord progression that I really like to use, because instead of starting on the 1, I just have to count because I really suck at music theory, but I think we're starting at 4. Anyways, it's like in a minor key we have this, and instead of starting there, we just start here. And I think it is really nice to have that as a tool, because you can make a section feel really different and interesting harmonically quite easily. So then we go like, and then with the vocals and the vocoders, making the vocals sound pretty full here, and it's pretty great. Originally I also had this part way more filled up, but Michael and some other friends gave me feedback that it's nice to kind of leave this more empty, to make it grow later on, which was a great call. It did a lot for the structure. So yeah.
Voices clouds around me. I just wanna save myself from drowning when there is nobody that can help me get out of my rut.
Yeah, so we have a bass going on, some cymbals, which are also a nice touch, I think, to kind of make you float in a way, to propel you forwards. There's strings going on. The strings here are very simple, not super exciting. So there's this simple string melody on violins, and then we have some strings supporting the piano chords like these. And as you see, I'm using like some sustain, like some sus4 and sus2 on the sustains. I'm not sure what it is, but it's like creating some tension between notes, which is really nice to do there. And especially because otherwise it would feel quite static, and with the strings I feel like that just fills up the space a bit more, but also adds a bit more emotional and storytelling in the instrumentation. Other than that, strings really are not that interesting here. I did something that might be interesting to some of you. What I did was I did layer different articulations. As you can see, here we have the whisper sustains. Here we have just normal lungs, and here we have, these are with woodwinds. This is probably my favorite string sustains patch that exists. It's by Arc 5 from Orchestral Tools. It's just so great. Let's just play with it for just a second. It's like having like a big open chord. Feels very cinematic and beautiful. But yeah, let's go into the next section. Because here is the actual chorus. I would say this is more of a pre-chorus, and then this is the actual chorus. And this chorus, it's so many hours went into the whole thing. Even though at its heart it's not that complex, but just evoking the right message with the right words was a bit tricky to me. Especially because the meaning behind this and losing a friend, it's very emotional, and I didn't want to be too explicit with that. I felt ashes in the night is just a really cool phrase to kind of. It felt like, because when it's night, it's dark, and then there's ashes, and that can. It's very weird to say it, but for me it was like it's something you don't see, but it still bothers you. You still feel it, and then like we've lost our minds. It feels like, because in a way you are into it together, but it still feels so weird. It's the weird process of grief in a way, where there's this cinematic vibe here. At first, I had drums here, which also got scrapped when I was like in the mixing stage and talking with Michael and getting some ideas, which was really, I'm so glad it turned out like this. And this is why it's good to have friends that can help you along with your music and share their ideas. It just feels so grand and moving. Like,
Ashes in the night, we have lost our minds, lost our lives all in the wreckage.
just the harmonies and the vocals here are just great.
Ashes in the night, we have lost our minds, lost our lives all in the wreckage.
And then together with some lot of orchestral stuff actually. But as you can see, it's not too bad. Just the strings. But they're way more prominent in here, as there's also some atmosphere, which is just like another windy kind of environment effect. The strings here, we have the solo strings that are moving a little bit, which is this specific layer. And then together with just normal string ensembles and legato melodies, together with that, it's pretty beautiful. Because I'm not going for a hyper-realistic orchestral mock-up, and the main thing is it has to fit with the song. I don't have the budget for live strings and anything, so what I like to do is I like to just use good legatos and sustains, but then having something like this, like these solo textures, like these feel very performance-based. They feel very like a real player is playing them. Like there's movements and a little randomness that I think kind of glues the sound together. And especially when you have the live vocals, it does sound pretty realistic to me.
Ashes in the night, we have lost our minds, lost our lives all in the wreckage.
And of course, if you're who watching this is, or anyone that I'm telling this to, who is like really big on realistic mock-ups, they will probably tell me otherwise, and I would agree with them. It's just, in the context of this song, I think the strings work really well and they do their parts. And then yeah, in the end here we have this little crescendo with the kick drum just going really fast. So there's some string crescendo stuff there, and then there's the kick drum that's just growing. I'm just gonna go to this one again, and the actual mix. And what I want to mention about the transition between the chorus and like the post-chorus or the drop, I think it's more of a drop if you can call it that. But I wanted to do something that I normally don't do, which is this very kind of high energy EDM type drop post-chorus. And what it does, it's kind of bring you into the wasteland. Like we're talking about the wasteland, and then when it's a wasteland, it just transitions into something completely unknown and chaotic, which is the feeling that I wanted to evoke about the wasteland. So that's why we have such a interesting EDM parts here. This is also one of the first tracks that I sketched out for my album, so a lot of the ideas in the whole album were born starting here. I got so many ideas after working on the first demo of this track.
Into
get out of the high energy part. What I can tell you about this is, I think the cool part that kind of makes it my own, because it's just basically very pumpy drums and stuff like that, where we have just but then we also have rising, which is well, it's rendered out as violins. The first time that I did this, I had the rising signature sound, which is a synth patch that I created myself in Serum, and it sounds it's really nice for creating kind of bands. So it's a kind of organic sounding thing. I have it used in the end part, but for the earlier part, I switched on to create something more subtle, which is the just violins. I processed them to create like a band. Which instantly makes this super dramatic and cinematic. So that's what I really like about this instrumentation wise. Like all these background atmospheres and elements that are going on, they just add this little bit of tension that makes it feel like we're still in the world of the poison. And then there's this melody. You hear the strings playing as well. Just these strings. These sound so much more like a synth in the context of this, because I didn't feel the need to make it like a realistic sounding strings here, because together with the synths, it just felt right. So yeah, that's it for the post-chorus thing. And then we go into the second verse. But let's just switch to the right stanza, because now it's a bit confusing. Yeah, we have this. Turn up the kick a bit, like the final mix. So what I did here is it's a similar approach to the first verse, but it had to grow more, and I did do less atmospheres in here. I still had some of them, so you can hear this like. But still very subtle. And then there was the strings, which also are a bit atmospheric here. And there were no strings in the first verse. Also, the piano chords, I used more notes now. So I made them more full and less lonely, less empty. I don't know how you want to call it. And this caused this section to feel a bit bigger. All those kind of tiny things add up to kind of create some movement throughout here. Michael also had the suggestion to like emphasize on that. So I also have the kick drums that just kind of continue after the chorus. So it keeps the whole, structurally, it keeps the track moving. And I also went with different chords. They went into a different direction. So quite lyrics-wise, this one is quite explicit, this part. This part, I really, really love this. No, I think it's just in the lyrics, throughout a lot of the lyrics is from this album and from the upcoming album, because there's some songs that just didn't make the cut for the Poison Act 1. I wanted to put them on the next act. I did a lot of references with Poison and stuff, which is more like a kind of cheeky way to talk about the whole album concept, but it also still fits really well with the narrative. and it's such an emotional moment here. And then we go to the next pre-chorus. I'm just gonna compare this to the first one, and then I'm gonna compare it again, but with Michael's instrumentation mix. Oh wait, it's here. And then here it's like this. Here. It's so much more movement going on. I have these pizzicato violins and cellos here. And I kind of, this is where I wanted to add something organic, and this is something that I've talked about with Michael. So this I added on later. I have these synths, and I wanted to have this sound in there, but then with pizzicatos, I felt it was kind of nice. It worked really well. And then also we have piano here. And it sounds so weird on its own, especially when I write like more realistic orchestral stuff. Hearing this, you have to kind of fantasize about how it works in the context, because that's a really weird part about producing all this. It's just, I feel it's probably just an ego thing, and you have to be like, oh, it has to sound like this, but then it's not actually the most productive for the track, I think, because it just doesn't matter as much, since they will work together to create. It's more of an EDM track. It's not an orchestral track. It's just an EDM track with orchestral stuff. So yeah, and they play together with the vocal and the wall. It's kind of a wall of sound with the vocoder and the vocals and everything together. And we still have some strings in here and subtle brass stains, which are also in the previous part, or in the previous pre-chorus. So with all the scrolling, and here is just the strings, if you're curious. I didn't move too much with these strings. They're more like a pads kind of purpose here. But now we have like a little bridge part. So, oh, sorry for doing that. I just wanted to show these. Yeah, like, no. I shouldn't do it. Okay. There we go. Just a short little orchestral thingy. And I just want to show this. I introduced that episodic pitch from Oliver Arnold's Chamber Evolutions again in here. And then we also have this signature kind of bend sound. And then that builds up in a crescendo in the next, the final chorus, basically. So let's just go with that. So this is the original chorus, and the one that's not stripped away. So this is the chorus in its full kind of power, and I just wanted to show the superior mix because this is the the final mix. So especially in this part, you can really hear how much more full it sounds and how it shines compared to where this one is way more atmospheric and. And here it's just basically full on EDM. But yeah, and then we have this. Well, I'm just gonna show this mix as well again. It's just another post-chorus. This is all just like a tiny bit more intense and a really cool synth. Okay, I'm gonna stop it right here because this was really funny. And sometimes when you're working on music, you've done something and you think, okay, that's it, and then you listen back to it a lot of times. Then you think this is how it's supposed to be, and then that's what you stick with. And this is really interesting because after I got the vocals back from Megan, Michael started listening, giving me some advice on the instrumentation, what's handy before he starts mixing it. I'm mentioning Michael a lot. He has really been a particularly great help with this whole song. It stopped. Oh, I'm throwing my mouse. It stopped right here. This was the end of the post chorus. That was it. And Michael said it feels like I paid for a full course meal and I'm getting only like a part of it, and he wants more. So I just extended it and I went up with the whole thing. It sounds so much more complete that way. Like, check this out. And I also think it works really well to have that in comparison with the other like post-chorus or drop, and to have this one longer to really kind of finish the story. So yeah, I'm really happy with how that turned out. And then the synth block I really like. Nothing special really, but it, compared to the other drop, it adds like some movement and tension because it's moving in between the notes. So yeah, I really like having that kind of movement and tension. And then that's kind of it. Now with the little outro. So again, very atmospheric with the atmospheres and pads in here. And the piano is like in the intro, just with 2 notes. So yeah, that's it for the instrumental. I just want to show you the vocoder in Ableton, so let's switch to that, and then I'm gonna go a bit more into detail about the vocals. Alright, now we are in the amazing Ableton, where I'm gonna show you how I made the vocoders, which is probably the most thing ever. Like, yeah, it's just embarrassing. But last year, I've done a lot of really fun stuff from theme parks to vacations to playing Silk Song and whatever, and great food as well. This tops all of it. It's just so much fun. I'm just gonna show you. Okay, these are the vocals.
Poisonous clouds around me, I just
And then I can add voices to the vocal, like as a choir, but then it will be more robotic. It's kind of the Daft Punk sound that probably some of you will recognize. And it's also used a lot by Alex Siever in Arcane and his stuff, which is really my musical hero, as some of you might have already noticed. So let's just play around with it.
Poisonous clouds around me, I just wanna save myself from drowning when there is nobody that can help me get out of my rut. Oh, please remember when we didn't run, when times got hard and when we tried to face all of our problems. I know we weren't perfect, but the best of us is now behind us, and now we run in circles till we die.
This is just improvised. You can play around with the vocals and improvise all sorts of cool harmonies over them. That's really so much fun. I'm just gonna play some more stuff just to showcase.
Poisonous clouds around me, I just wanna save myself from drowning when there is nobody that can help me get out of my rut. Oh, please remember when we didn't run, when times got hard and when we tried to face all of our problems. I know we weren't perfect, but the best of us is now behind us, and now we run in circles till we die.
So much fun. I can and I have and I will play with this for hours. So I kind of have to restrict myself to keep this at just this. But if you want to see me improvise with this for longer, please tell me, because I'm more than happy to do that. Anyways, the original one is here in the MIDI. Let's see if we can activate it. Yep.
Poisonous clouds around me, I just wanna save myself.
This is what I ended up with that felt most appropriate to the song. I sent that to Michael. He mixed it in the final results. As you can hear, there's quite a bit of fullness in the vocals, which is partially because of her harmonies, but that's also partially because of the vocoder, which is just great. And in Ableton, you can play with the vocoder on the vocoder on this one. I didn't do much. I did a bit of compression in the vocoder, and I kept like a certain amount of depth in there to kind of have the hybrids, and I have them layered on top of it. The point is, if you have just vocoder, it will be just those robot voices kind of. And it will be, where is everything? And then you can be like,
when there is nobody that can help me get out of my rut.
But it's less fun, I think, because it's just robots, and there's uses for this.
Surround me, I just wanna save myself from drowning when there is nobody that can help me get out of my rut.
But the approach that I'm doing is more hybrid, which is why you have the lead sound on top of there, and it gives the vocoder kind of a real vibe. So together with that, you kind of get that Z sound, which is just really cool. And it sounds so full because it's just a synth. And this is actually not the one. It's this one. It's just a synth. This is the synth that is, but then it's playing with the vocals. I have no idea how the technology works. It's just really cool. You can change it around as well. So let's try that out.
Poisonous clouds around me.
I'm going to do something a bit more flattering. Sorry.
Poisonous clouds around me, I just wanna save myself from drowning when there is nobody that can help me get out of my rut. Oh, please
So you can play around and create your own vocoder in a way with Ableton. And this is no advertisement, no sponsoring. I prefer Cubase for most stuff. And this is just really fun to do. And yeah, let's do one more and then call it a day.
Poisonous clouds around me, I just wanna save myself from drowning when there is nobody that can help me get out of my rut. Oh, please remember when we didn't run, when times got hard and when we tried to face all of our problems. I know we weren't perfect, but the best of us is now behind us, and now we run in circles till we die.
So much fun. So yeah, that's it. That's the whole Wasteland walkthrough. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was interesting to some extent for you or not. I don't really mind. I just hope there's someone I can make happy with doing these and just show some context behind the music. This is the first one. There'll be more. I'm not sure if I'm gonna cover every track from the album. I'll definitely do some more though, and I'm really excited for those. So have a great day. Wishing you a great evening or night or whatever it is there, and cheers.